All right. Deet doot deet. The Calamari boys are back to review another episode of Squid Game. I want to bring on my name is Robert Meyer Burnett, but I want to bring on my co-compatriot, Hot Toys himself, as HeelsvsBabyFace. How are you today?
Half good, half bad. Half bad because I had to deal with Batwoman. Half good because I didn't have to deal with Discovery.
Oh, well.
Because it's blocked in the UK now. One day before the release of season 4. Sorry, we're blocking it worldwide apart from America and Canada. Okay. Okay, that's good. That's fine.
Yeah, luckily we've got the Koreans to help us out of the horrible rut American television seems to be in, at least as far as, CBS is concerned. How about that, Clarice?
Thankfully, never went anywhere close to it, but there again, won't have to because it never got renewed.
No. We're back to the Squid Game. We're at episode 4, and I guess the end of episode 4. It's not quite the halfway point. But this episode, dude, this was, as the kids say, this was a banger of an episode.
Banger!
Banger! I mean, we came out of episode 3.
It's a banger with a cliffhanger.
It is.
Boom.
And one of the things, we get right into it. This episode shows us player 111, Yu Sung-ju, as a major factor of this episode. He's the doctor, and he obviously we've seen him. We don't really understand what he's up to, but he's up to a lot, it turns out. And
yes.
and then we also find out that strangely enough, the doctor is in cahoots with a certain, I guess, secret faction amongst the guards.
Yes.
And he is running an organ trafficking operation along with them. And why not? Because when people are being killed en masse, why not take their organs and make a little... I wasn't clear. I don't know, maybe you can add some clarity to me. I got a feeling that this was a clandestine operation that was outside of the purview of the rest of the Squid Game mentors or whoever's running this thing, because we don't know yet. Or is this sanctioned? Because... how can they not? But apparently it's not sanctioned, and it is kind of a side hustle for a lot of these people.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out in a couple of episodes time and the repercussions of that.
But,
there's a lot of, like episode 2, there was organ talk when the mob guy was being betrayed by his lieutenant, and he was just like, the Filipino casino people have come up and they're going to take your eye. And they're going to take your kidney, and they're going to take all your bits and pieces to pay your debts. So it's just like, holy shit, there's a lot of, body part trafficking in this world.
And 456 too. His contract with his debtors, the people they were going to take his organs as well.
He's going to take his organs as well. And no, I'm thinking of something different. But yes, he's contractually obliged to give up his organs if he doesn't pay his debts. I don't think it's a legal contract, but it's definitely one to keep him worried. But yeah, lots of I don't think I'm going to go to the to Korea anytime soon.
Yeah, it's that old waking up in a hotel bathtub with missing one of your kidneys. Yeah. That one goes all the way back, and apparently, there is organ trafficking all around the world. Luckily, with my liver, no one's going to want any of my organs, but thankfully. But it's really, I did think that this was a very interesting wrinkle to sort of set up. It just adds and many more layers to what's going on, and it makes sense. I guess they mark people's caskets who aren't totally dead yet, so they get fresh organs. I
think they just choose who they deem to be the best. I think all the like this one time, sure, the guy was like, but I think other times they have been, dead. Because we did see it in episode 2, beginning of episode 2, there was a guy half alive and they just nailed him back in and stuck him in the incinerator to be burnt alive.
And then we also, the doctor's also being given information about what the next game's going to be to help him out.
Yes.
You know, in case
that's his reward.
That's his reward. And then we also see our gangster character, Duck Soo. I always say Duck Soo. It's probably Duck Soup. He starts building his new gang, and they steal food from other players who get none. And of course, they get a
glass of soda and an egg, hard-boiled egg.
Yep. And
that's their brekkie. Enjoy.
And the money keeps dropping, and you really start to get the idea that, there's gonna
the moment is when they turn up for the food, and it's like I said, it's a glass of soda, you know, kind of like a 500 ml, and a hard boiled egg, and they're just like, is this it? And then the trickster woman, shall we say, whispers something to him, and she basically whispers, well, let's queue back up and let's just push in the queue. And so they push back in the queue and they get seconds. So there's 5 of that group. So when the last 5 people turn up for the food, there's no food. So one of them, little scrawny guy, is losing his shit because he's just survived this goddamn honeycomb game. He wants some fucking food at the end of it, and it's been nicked from him. And the mobster guy, Duxu, just kicks the shit out of him till he's dead.
Yep.
And so 4, 5, 6 is comes and looks at the body, and then he's like causing a stir, saying, what are you gonna do? He's just killed a guy. And all the guards just unmoving, and then you see front man looking through the console, unmoving. And then after a minute or so of protestation, the counter just ticks down 1, and then the money starts funneling in, and then you're like, oh, you can die anywhere at any time.
Yep.
And you'll be added to the prize fund.
Yeah, you don't. And so suddenly the Squid Game becomes a game of survival amongst the contestants in their own house, in their own domicile, where they sleep. And
who do you trust?
And then alliances start to form, and it gets pretty interesting. So I mean, it's really interesting how this is all going to play out in this episode.
Well, this is where we understand it's I mean, we know the games are sinister,
right?
Because we know that the consequence of losing the game is death. But this is the first time, like, the guards have had a level of a degree of protection over them. You know, don't cross this line, don't cross that line. But unfortunately, you have to discover where the lines are, and discovering that the line does not get crossed if it comes to murdering another contestant.
Cold-blooded murder. Just straight up murder.
Yeah, then that sort of takes a whole new edge to it, because you're like, okay, they'll feed us. They will abide by the rules of the game, which they will. There's no cheating. The guards don't cheat, and the people don't. It's not that sort of game. You will survive if you pass the test. But protecting you, no. That's your business. That's going to be your business 24/7.
Well, what I also thought was really interesting too about this moment that you cited when Duck Soo just kills a poor dude who just wanted to eat food. It really changes the dynamic of the show in the sense that now there is peril everywhere. There's and it truly is the law of the jungle, where everyone is a predator and everyone is prey. And
and it's Socialism in its best.
Absolutely. And it really
that is socialism in action, people. That's your socialism, right?
And I have to say, watching this for the first time, the tension in the air as the factions sort of, they realize, like, they're gonna, as soon as lights go out, they're gonna come for us. It's gonna be a free for all, and they're gonna try and kill it. And you've got the bad guys, the outlaws. You've literally got a gangster building an army that are loyal to him, and they're just going to sweep across everyone else and kill as many people as they can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was horrifying, and I also loved it. I love
it's great. It's great. It's great. It's not horrifying at all. It's amazing.
I love the peril, how they just amped it up, and it's unrelenting, and it was fascinating watching, like, them. They totally tear apart their building. I don't know, whatever they could out of the beds. It's some kind of a defensible position.
Think of it this way, right? Instead of people, remember how they say at the end, they say, you like horses, you like horse racing. Yeah, you're horses.
Right.
These are animals in a pen.
Yes.
But what they don't understand is there's chickens, there's fucking lions, there's gorillas, there's deer, there's all these different types of animals that haven't quite realized their position on the food chain. This is the food chain game. And before anything kicks off, we see all the guards coming out of their rooms. And what they don't hear, because they're getting the countdown to bedtime, but the guards hear is, it's time for the special game. So even the guards are getting spoken to like they're part of the game process. And then that's where we get our detective, but he puts on the square mask this time. So he's looking at this one from the position of a supervisor, but they're all there. The lift takes a huge group of them to the door of the dormitories, and then they just wait. They're just there in position, ready before the lights have gone out, and frontman's in the control room, and when the lights go out, immediately switches to infrared, and you can see all the heat signatures of the people in the beds, and then it's just like, right, who's making the first move? And no time whatsoever.
And what I loved about this was, and we as the viewers, because one of the fun things about this show is we discover a lot of the backstory, and a lot of the world building is happening as we go along. And we think we know how this is going to work. There's going to be different games. We never considered, viewers didn't consider this to be something, but it's clearly also a game, and they know it was going to happen, and it was going to happen at some point.
It's the special game.
It's the special game, and it's so.
But it does serve a purpose, though. It does serve a purpose, because when we're having the organ donation thing going on, harvesting really, but I'll just be polite. When that's going on, they say to the guy, hey, be careful, there's a special game tonight. Basically, it's called murder one another. So you better find yourself with the strongest group. And so the doctor attaches himself to the strongest group, and they initially like, fuck off. And then he says to Doc Sue, he says, I know the next game. And then, Doc Sue doesn't look a gift horse in the mouth, and he's like, okay, we'll play it. If you're right, then I'm on to a winner, because I can work out what to do and strategize. So they let him join the strong group, and oh my goodness me, the mayhem.
Oh, and also our favorite maybe mother, our crazy lady, 212. She also ingratiates herself to Duck Sue, because she gave him the lighter during the honeycomb game.
Yeah. So she's part of the posse.
So she's part of the posse, and and then all hell breaks loose. And I have to say, one of the reasons I think people watch this show is, even though I might feel bad, be a bad human being, I found this sequence to be monumentally entertaining. The guards turn on the strobe lights.
Yes.
The strobe lights start flashing. I mean, and it's the
Thunder
mayhem.
and lightning sound effects.
Yeah, it's just, and you just watch people. I mean, and the thing is, they're cutting people's throats. They're crushing people's heads. I mean, it's incredible.
Lord of the Flies, isn't it?
It is
gone,
God.
It's gone 100 Lord of the Flies.
But what's so and what's amazing is, you know, at first you would think. Actually, I want to read a super chat that came in because this is completely relevant. Actually, it's a 4-part super chat. Ubu Roy sends this in, and this is really interesting. So, the series has established that it is very important that all contestants are considered equal and have an equal chance to win. Allowing the contestants to kill each other does a lot to raise the stakes and the tension. Does it, however, not disproportionately favor the contestants with a criminal or violent past? Letting someone die during a game...
Equality, not equity.
Right.
Equality, not equity. Don't confuse the two.
Hang on.
Don't confuse the two.
Does it, however, not disproportionately favor the contestants with a criminal or violent past? Letting someone die during a game out of self-preservation is one thing. Actively killing another person would be a line most contestants would find difficult to cross. It is, however, violence and not a skill in a game, or is it just to prepare the contestants? You have to kill other people if you want to win the game. I think it's all of those things. The point is that, like life, this game is unpredictable, and this ultimately this whole thing is just entertainment for bored rich people. So anything that can make human beings turn on each other, and you see just how quickly we'll do it. I know it was entertaining for me to watch, and I'm sure if I had the kind of money to get myself into the Squid Game to watch it being played, especially in person, money would be no object. So, because I would be a bored rich person. So
This was a game to get rid of the weak as well, because the next game was going to be tug of war. Yeah,
and watching weak people die isn't as fun as watching strong people die. So
they want competition.
Yep, we're going to winnow out the people that, you know, the cannon fodder, so to speak.
Snitches and the snitches and the pussies and the two trustings, because it is mentioned that, you know, people in groups, as soon as the lights went off, turned immediately on each other.
Right. By the way, I want to thank Uber Roy for this, because I think this is a really good question. Thanks for supporting the channel.
It is. But you know, these games, the whole thing is, I mean, this is communism. This is equality, and equality isn't fair.
No,
you have to understand that equality doesn't mean that everybody gets the same. Equality is everyone's treated the same.
Yeah, you have the same opportunity.
Yeah, regardless of your pros and cons, I think is the nicest way to put things.
Well, equity, like in golf, you would get handicaps. So yes. You get an extra stroke in golf or something if you're whatever your handicap is based on the par for the course. So if we had true equity, you know, you might give weaker people a weapon like a sledgehammer to even the playing field, but you don't. Life isn't like that. No. And so everyone has an equal opportunity to survive, and I would say that the human animal, if you dig deep enough and your life is threatened, you could go out and kill some motherfucker.
What do they say? Back a rat into a corner.
Yep.
And I will fight.
And I think, you know, you might have people that, like, I think Uber Roy makes a really good point. You might have people that have a propensity for violence, and they might have a disproportionate advantage because they're used to this way of life. But, you know, we're all born as babies. This is learned. If you're going to be a bad person, this is learned behavior through the course of, you've made a choice in your life. I don't care what your circumstances are, to be somebody who is bad. Or if you're used to violence, that's one thing. But you might have a disproportionate advantage to be quicker to act. But you know what? This is a game. And like you said, everyone's equal here. And it doesn't matter where or when or what. That's why I find it so interesting that the conversation, especially in the United States, about all of this stuff is like everybody is not equal. Everybody's had, I mean, in spirit, the human beings, I think we all are born into this world equal, but all of us have different strengths. People are short, people are tall, people are smart, people are dumb, people are strong, people are weak. And the thing is, our society, I don't think we're obligated to make a society where every single person is taken care of based on their, like in golf, getting a handicap. I mean, it'd be nice, but that's not how the universe works. And,
no, and this game is, I think this game is such a horrible word to call it. It's interesting because to me, it's not a matter of the strong versus the weak. To me, it's the moral versus the immoral.
Yes.
That's what it is, because we see Doksu, who's clearly a strong alpha guy, and he is stabbing women, defenseless women, in the throat with smashed bottles to kill them.
Yeah.
He when he gets the pen knife, when he gets the flick knife off the girl, he then uses it to stab people to death. But you also see people fighting to protect other people.
Yep.
And Ali, for instance, who's already been shown as very strong, he uses his strength, which could be very much on parity with Doksu, for all we know, to hurl this, to wield this big girder, which holds the beds together, simply to keep people at bay, not to kill, not to attack, but to defend. So you have morality versus immorality, and this is where a lot of women do get killed in this fight, unless they found refuge with either the strong alphas trying to kill, or were protected. Apart from, our was it a 167? Is it 167? 163, 167. Apart from her, who actually starts to give a bit of a fight. But again, this isn't a show which panders to like, oh no, a woman's going to kick this guy in. No, she gets a couple of licks in, but she gets the shit kicked out of her as well.
Yeah.
And inevitably has to, because 456 goes round to her earlier and says, hey, look, you should join us. When the lights go out, shit's going to hit the fan. If that happens, we're meeting at my bed. And she's like, I don't trust you.
Right.
I don't trust any of you. So she's on her own, but she's forced to run to 456 group and seek refuge there.
But I like what you said about the moral versus the immoral, because there's clearly it's almost like you're dividing this up into the good and the evil. And we've seen our characters as we get to know them. We're really understanding that they really are, and I think it's part of it, because we're now getting a group of people that's, the viewers are like, that these are our people. These are the good guys that we're going to now root for. And I think
yet we've already seen Sang-woo do some
and yet they're good is a relative term in here, but
relative to, exactly, yes.
And I do think it's interesting because it's one way that this show it gives you an expectation as a viewer and then turns around and subverts that expectation. And I think the best of that was in episode 6, which we'll get to in 2 weeks, but it's when you're watching this, you're like, okay, like it was almost like the Battle of Helm's Deep and the Two Towers. You've got the orcs are at the gates, and you have to defend against overwhelming odds in order to survive the night. And Gandalf and the Riders of the Rohirrim are not going to show up and save your ass.
No, not at all. It's going down. I mean, it's so interesting. I know if you haven't seen the rest of the series, I advise you just mute us for about 2 minutes, starting from now. But of course, the game only ends when the old man asks for it to end. These are the things that you notice when you watch it a second time.
Yes,
because every time there's a game, the old man says, "Oh, I used to play this game as a kid." Every fucking time. and you just don't think about it when you're watching it first time. And the fighting only stops when the old man's just like, I'm scared, we're all going to kill ourselves at this rate, which then seems to be the signal to frontman to say, right, open the doors, everyone go, everyone stop the fighting. Enough people have died. So, I mean, that in itself is really intriguing as to what starts the game, what stops the game, because we're all looking at it from the frontman perspective, and it's not at all.
What I also think about, what I love is that obviously when you find out what happens at the end and who the old man is, that he does put himself in harm's way. He's in the middle, he's in the shit. Like if somebody crawled up to the top of where he was perched or where he was and decided to take him out, he'd be dead. Like he's I don't think the guards could have come in and saved him quick enough. You know, you never know. Maybe somebody would have maybe there was looking with infrared guns, somebody would have helped him. But you never know. I mean, he does
he knows what's going to happen though.
Yeah, but what I think about it is that I think part of the thrill for him is that he kind of is in harm's way.
Like he's in harm's way in the tug of war for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's part of his kink. You know, he's like, well, at least if I die playing the game, it was fun. Like I'm old anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a because you know he doesn't lie about his condition or anything.
No, it's like so what is
there is a thrill, and when he does get eliminated, and we see frontman talk to him and says, you know, why don't you join the VIPs? And he's just like, you know, once you played the game, it's not the same to watch it. It's just like, wow. Okay. You can you mute yourself now. So yeah, the fighting goes on. Lots of people are getting killed by the looks of it, and then the old man is on top of a bed and he cries out that he's scared. He's scared. We're all gonna kill ourselves at this rate. And then frontman thinks, right, enough's enough. They open up the doors and the guards come in and guns are firing and everyone stops, and it's like, okay, everyone, you know, go to your own corners. This is enough now. And I think it's like,
it's horrifying. I mean, the bodies and the blood everywhere, the savagery on display, and the savagery on both sides.
Oh yeah,
you know, are the quote unquote good guys? They were just as effective killers as that's why what Ubi Roy says is that it might have been that way before the mayhem started. But when people start dying and your life is at stake, I think you can dig deep enough. And if you need to start slitting people's throats and getting weapons and crushing people's heads, you can do it.
I didn't see any of our group kill.
I think
they defended and they punched, but I didn't see them kill anyone.
Oh, then okay, that might be. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it again.
I've seen it 5 times now.
Oh.
No, yeah, our group don't kill any. Like they'll knock somebody with a pipe or they'll kick somebody with a knife or whatever. But or they'll punch.
All right. Well, that's fair. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see them kill.
I haven't watched it twice, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm on 5 times viewing now.
But that's okay. That's an important. There you go. That just reinforces the fact that there are immoral and moral people.
Moral and immoral people. Yeah. And then of course they can't sleep now because
no,
everyone's so worried that it's going to kick back off again. But special game's over now. Then what we do see though is when the guards are going around, because they're bringing in the circles to pick up the dead bodies and stuff, they leave the blood on the floor. They don't clean that up.
Nope.
Because that's there in the morning. But they bring the circles in to pick up the bodies, and our detective supervisor goes past 4, 5, 6, and he's like, do you know a contestant called such and such? And he's just like, we don't know names here. We just know numbers. Like, okay. And then he just walks on. And that's when they just kind of like sit down and introduce themselves. Then they actually give their names to each other.
Yep.
And the woman says, why? And he says, well, it's an act of trust. It's an act of trust. So, yeah, they all introduce, and Ali's very happy because he feels like, you know, he's doesn't have to, you know, bow and scrape. He's kind of becoming more on parity with them, and because Sang-woo's been so nice to him. He's bought him food. He's given him bus fare money.
Yeah.
He's looked after him in the game. He's given him his food in the game as well. Yeah, he's relied on him in tasks. So he's been very grateful to Sang-woo. So that relationship obviously becomes episode 6. That's what it becomes.
Yes. Yep. But it's interesting. I mean, and obviously, the next game, whatever's coming for them, you know, now they've got the battle lines have now been drawn. There's a very clear demarcation point here, because the game, they still have to live another day. People have to sleep at some point. You know that it's going to come to pass that this team of people, the groups that are the dividing groups, have to maintain. This isn't going to be the end of it. So it's interesting, like you said, there's trust being built up, and now they've gone through war together. They haven't just gone through the game. Now they've actually physically battled with
shed blood
of another against an enemy. So it's very interesting. And then just when you thought things couldn't be worse for these people, they're going to go play another game.
Well, we got some sexy time with Doksu and
that's true.
and shrewd woman who basically uses sex as a,
or she tries
to use sex as a weapon
in the mistaken idea that maybe this will create a bond between us.
But this is another moment in the series where consequence comes in, and your word is your bond, because your word is your bond in this, and if you break your word, you get the consequence.
That's right.
We saw it in episode 2, where 456 says he won't go after the pickpocket. I bet my mom's life on it. You know, I stake my mom's life on it. So she frees him. He does. And then she's like, I feel sorry for your mum. His mum dies in episode 10. In this instance, she's fucking Doksu. And she gets his name from him. And then she says, if you betray me, I will kill you. And so promise me you won't betray me. And he's just like, trust me. Trust me. His word is his bond. He betrays her moments later. Mere moments later.
And you're right. I mean, I just want to make sure I was looking this up about they know it. You're right. None of our heroes, let's call them heroes now, did kill anybody. They were able to dodge the responsibility of murder. And you know, so it's also interesting to see how, again, people are using what they possess. I mean, our woman character thinks, okay, well, you know, maybe I can ensorcel him into helping me by using the one thing that I always have, and that's the sex. I've got my sex, you know, and she has femininity, sexuality, whatever is always a tool to be deployed when necessary, and has been throughout history. And in a way, when you're watching it, we, the audience, is led to believe that, you know what, maybe it's going to work. Maybe he will take her in. You know, because he's that kind of guy, or is he?
Or is he?
So, people do what they have to do to survive.
The way that they select the groups for the next game is very clever indeed.
Very clever, and again, setting you up to subvert expectations because you don't. It's just really, really, really well done.
I know. Do you want to go on? You go on and explain it.
Well, I mean, you have so they have to have a team of, is it 10 players?
Yeah.
They have to have 10 players, and well, how are they picking each other? They go around and they go around and they have to like convince. They have to ask people to join, right?
But it's just this white room.
Right, that's right.
So
and they with the steps. I mean, the multi-tiered.
Yeah, the
they're in the steps, and they're like, "Okay, everybody, you guys need to pick groups of 10." And it's really interesting how they're all like our good guys are conspiring. Like, we need to find. They think they need to find immediately. We got to find big people. We don't have no old people. We don't need women. We've got to figure out who we can use. And what's really interesting is the Duck-Soo, they're immediately, look, we're going to get the strongest people. Go get the strongest people. And
they know that it's tug of war.
Yes, they know it's tug. Right, that's right.
The doctor's already told him that it's tug of war.
And so
when they go into the room, the first thing Duck-Soo does is just pat the doctor on the back of his shoulder, and they smile at each other.
Yeah.
And then he turns to his lieutenant behind him, and he's just like, "Look for the strongest men."
And what I loved about this is, again, it sets the audience up. We have this expectation like, oh man, they've got the advantage. They're gonna because the strongest people are gonna clearly win. So, once again, in this episode, twice the dread waiting for night to fall, waiting for the lights to go out. That was already one thing. And now we've survived it as an audience member, but now you're in a position where we are put into another, the tension rises again for us as viewers, because we're like, our heroes are in peril and they don't even know it. They don't even know that there's an advantage from the other team. And I think it's great from a viewing perspective. When I was watching this episode, I'm like, this is unrelenting tension. It's exactly what I love. It's really hard to do this in horror films. It's really hard to do this in thrillers because it requires intelligence on the part of the audience and intelligence on the part of the filmmakers to do this. And this is the second time in an hour-long piece of entertainment that they are, and they're, because it takes a long time and everybody has to go sort of and talk to other people, and you're seeing the strong people being pulled into the enemy camp, and you're realizing that, oh my God, you've got the husband and wife that can't be separated, and you've got.
But we don't know what the game is.
No, we don't. But we
know is that it involves, he wants the strongest men, so it's some sort of feat of strength. We know that.
But it's just, I watching this, you're like, damn it. People are going to die.
People are going to die every game.
But it's just really, 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 it's just well done. I mean, the way that this is all thought out and executed.
Yeah, because our heroes, Sang-woo, he's way ahead just because he's a very clever kind of analytical thinker. And he's just like, get men. Right. Men and women, relatively the same in intelligence. When it comes to physicality, men. So just get men. And so he's got the right idea. And I know it's, and hey, if there's anyone here who's just like, oh my God, that's sexist, it's your life.
Yeah.
It's your life here, okay? You can virtue signal to the days long, okay? But
you're going to die.
Flying down 100 foot to your death, don't then be going, well, I did the right thing. This is your life. So he's got the right idea, but when he goes back to the team and there's like two women.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the old man. And then there's the third woman, because our sexy time lady, she got betrayed immediately.
She betrayed, and it's so great. I mean, it's so great that, sorry, even that doesn't work. Even in times of life and death, I don't care what you've done for me. You're out. You're out of the family, Tom. You're out.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the lieutenants says to Duck-Soo, just like, what about her? And he just like looks and goes, yeah. Just like, don't even bother. I've given you your orders. Get men, Yeah.
I mean, what I like about this too, especially maybe I think that's maybe this is why this has become such a worldwide phenomenon, is all of this talk of like you just said, what's right, what's wrong, equity versus equality, all of that goes out the window. None of that matters. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, none of it really does matter. It's to have this kind of, to be able to think that way is the ultimate luxury. People talk about privilege. It's privilege to be living in Western civilization at this point in human history. We are privileged from the get, all of us. And when you're in a situation like this, none of that matters. None of it matters.
No.
Because you're going to die. You're going to die.
Yeah, like I say, you can virtue signal to the days long. I'll use, I'll go back to primal instincts. Thank you very much indeed, because that's what's got us, here tens and thousands of years later.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. You can protest on Twitter all you want afterwards, if that's your thing. So yeah, they get their teams. So now they've got 3 women, old man, and then a religious dude, and obviously our team. Doc Sue's got the toughest men that he can find. There's obviously mixed teams, and then just like 10 minutes is up. Please proceed to the next room to play the game. And they're like, "What? We're not playing the game in this room." And another set of double doors open, and they go into what is an absolutely ginormous, like warehousey high. It's just like a hangar. It's crazy big, and there's just this elevated above them that's only gotten to by a lift is this tug of war platform.
And can I just give a shout out to the production design of this show? The things that they've come up with, the way they've done this, whether they use visual effects or miniatures
you do that. I'm gonna run and fill some water.
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job of setting this up. And if you didn't already feel an overwhelming sense of horror and dread, I mean, you know that this is going to involve people falling to their deaths, and it's not going to be pretty. And that's one of the things I also really loved about this show is, and I think part of the reason why it caught on is because it's constantly, no matter what you think is coming, you don't really know. And then when they throw this at you, you're like, oh God, and you might want to turn away and not watch, but you have to. You have to see what happens because you're invested in it. You're absolutely invested in what's going to happen. And I think this set, as soon as you get in there, it's clever. It's mean and nasty and deliciously enjoyable to watch. And there's something totally irresistible about this fact. And I think, again, that's part of the power of this show. I mean, from a narrative standpoint, it does a masterful job of stringing you as an audience member along. And it's been a while since I felt, and that kind of stringing along is strong storytelling. It's strong writing. And that's what we're always looking for, whether we're watching movies or television. And this show does a really good job of that. And the setup for this sequence, it's like, it's hardcore. And, even though it's diabolical and people die, I can't deny that it puts a smile on my face. It really does. So our groups of 10 are going to play tug of war. And we get to watch this game of tug of war. And obviously the losing side will get pulled off the platform and plunge, whether it's 50 feet or whatever, down to the hard concrete or stone floor, whatever it is below. And many of them, everyone's going to die. And of course, as we watch this happen, we realize that our good guys, the team that we're following, is at a severe disadvantage. And it looks like there's no possible way that our team is going to win. But then, once we watch one team lose badly and our team is now they're now on the chopping block, we of course we see that our team is outgunned. As I'm just up to the point where we've watched a game of this horrible tug of war and how deadly it really is, and then our team is. And I was explaining how the sense of dread and that these games and the way this show is set up, you can't take your eyes off it, and the narrative thrust. They do such a masterful job of keeping you as a viewer engaged in what's going to happen. And I haven't seen many things with this kind of narrative thrust where it's just so enjoyable to watch. And again, once you see the first game and you see just what a horrible way to die this is, it also is making us think that our protagonists, the people that we're watching, they don't have a chance. They're gonna die. They are gonna die
when they get drawn against their next team.
Yes,
it's just all men. It's just all men. And then the sexy time lady's just like sausage fest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're dead, and they're all just going up in the lift. It's like dead men walking because they're just like, oh no. And that's where the old man has to come in and pick him up.
But we as the viewers think that too.
Oh, I'm legitimately like, how the fuck do they get out of this?
And this is a hard.
This hasn't insulted you.
No,
this show has never insulted your intelligence to date.
In fact, it's the viewer's intelligence that string it along, because you are anticipating like, oh my god,
yeah.
And this is why it's so well written, and this is why it catches on worldwide. It's not just an American phenomenon. Squid Game literally has been a worldwide hit because of its intelligence, because it's so compelling.
Yeah, and when they're going up in the lift, and the show is exactly the same. It's just like we're outgunned, on a strength level that we're absolutely outgunned here. But tug of war is not just about strength; it's about technique.
Yes, it is.
And so the old man. I used to play this when I was a kid, a lot. That's funny that. And then he talks about you should, instead of lining up in a row, like they're all lining up in a row, it's like, no, you need to line up sequentially to balance the weight better of your group, because when you're all on one side, all the weight's going on one side, you're not getting. You need to have a strong person up front that can look down, psychologically look down the other leader. Then you need a strongman at the back that can hold the back together. When it's time to pull, immediately just all lean back. And I think he even describes it as until your head can almost see the person's behind you's groin.
Yeah, is
the way that they describe it, I think, in the subtitles. And that's displacing all your weight and literally giving you like a rock. So they're now sort of like pulled in against a rock. And so even if though they're stronger than you got to hold that rock for 10 seconds. And they're going to be like, psychologically, it's going to break them, because they're going to be like, how will we not move? There's 3 fucking women and an old man. How are we not moving them? And they said, and you just got to wait for the first person to slip, just a little slip, and that's when you then move, then start pulling, and you'll take them off balance. So he explains all this as it's actually happening in the show, and they start to tug the other team because the other team have been outmaneuvered. But then, because the show doesn't insult your intelligence, the other people are just like, fucking recover, come on. So the other team start pulling back, and that's raw strength, which is much stronger than the other team coming back at them again. So suddenly the advantage that they've got gets overturned, and then they're getting dragged through now. And so Sang-woo says, right, He says, when on my mark, everybody run 3 paces forward. And they're like, you fucking mad? Forward? He's like, do it or we're dead. And he's just like, 1, 2, 3. And they like run 1 step forward. Boom. See you next week. What?
A literal cliffhanger.
Literal cliffhanger to end that week.
Andrew Matthews sends in a super chat and says, it would have been interesting if they did a game only women used to play.
No, Matthew. Logically, when you know everything, that doesn't work. I don't know where you are, Matthew. I don't know what episode you're up to, but when you've watched the whole show, what you just said doesn't work. Doesn't work.
But and also with the childhood games, we all played them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like there were games that only certain people played. You know, I think that the games were. I think part of the fun of childhood is that when it comes to childhood games, there weren't really. I mean, maybe hopscotch was more of a girls' game.
Hopscotch was more of a yeah. I was going to say that.
But you know, tug of war. You know, you had family picnics or whatever. Tug of war was something everybody could compete in. You know, and play. So yeah, I do like. I mean, maybe girls didn't get around to playing Squid Game as much. I don't know. We didn't have it growing up here in America. I do like the fact that I think that now kids are going to grow up and play the Squid Game with their kids, at least in this country. I mean, that's another thing that South Korea has given us. They didn't just give us great entertainment. They gave us the Squid Game that now all kids everywhere can play.
Which one, though? The actual Squid Game or the death games? I don't know.
Maybe both.
Maybe both.
We never know.
But that's a heck of a literal cliffhanger to end the show on.
And really, that's the only time they ever do it like that.
Yes.
I mean, it's which I thought was great.
Yeah. That is a cliffhanger on a cliffhanger. I think there was some intentional shenanigans done there. And also, if you were, I mean, it's Netflix, so it's the slightly unfortunate, it's the binge model, so you could go straight into the next episode.
Right.
But if you were watching that on a weekly basis, you'd be like, wow.
Oh, it's like the best of both worlds. Fire.
Oh.
It's like the best of course, all you had to do was click to the next episode. But hooray. It wasn't like you had to wait all summer to find out if Picard would get rescued.
Hello, excuse me. I know somebody did. In the UK, we did.
Oh.
That was because, yeah, when we got it, so I can remember going to school being like, oh my God, did you see Star Trek? Picard's a Borg. Great stuff. But this is I think a wonderful episode about morals and ethics, and just morality in general, and the wolf within the sheep as well with Sang-woo.
Oh no, absolutely.
But it was, yeah, it's just. I adore the fact that the show treats you like an intelligent adult, and so, you know, it allows you to fill in some of the pieces. It allows you to work. What would you do? I mean, there's a what would you do element to this. How would you have dealt with the fight? Would you have tried to pacify people? Would you have tried to kill people? Would you have tried to defend others? Would you have hid?
Well,
all these different questions.
You know, I've always believed that the best forms of entertainment, whether, I mean, movies and television, books, anytime you're experiencing a story, the best stories put you as the audience. You're in the role of the protagonist, and you're constantly asking yourself, what would you do throughout? And that's, I think this is one of the best examples of that, because you can't not watch this show and not ask yourself, well, what the hell would I do? You know, you from the very beginning, from the first episode, you know, you're asking when 4, 5, 6 is, you're going, don't do that. Don't go to the track and gamble the money. Take your daughter out. You know, you're constantly and it's that's a very important thing. So for you filmmakers out there, you always want your audience to be putting themselves or identifying with your protagonist. And I think here's the thing. Chris Gore said something.
Mikey Burnham.
Well, that Chris Gore said something really interesting in this Film Courage video he did. And he said, look, I can identify with any great protagonist. I don't care if they're male, female, I don't care if they're young or old or whatever. Part of what great storytelling is you don't have to see yourself as the protagonist. You can watch a story about anyone. You don't have to see somebody that is reflective of you. As a matter of fact, Chris says, and I feel the same way, I think it's much more interesting. Like, one of my favorite movies in the world is Amélie. And I completely identify with Amélie. I mean, she's a young French woman. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to be either one of those things. But yet her worldview, I completely identify with it. And her quest in that movie is something that really touched my heart. And I was with her. I don't have to see myself reflected in a protagonist in order to love that protagonist. And
no,
I think
but
that
we're living in an age of narcissism.
Right, exactly. But I think that what's so great is in this show, you even identify with various. You're constantly asking yourself, you're like, what if I was that old man?
Yes.
Or what if I was that crazy woman? Would I throw sex at that dude to try and curry favor with him? Probably. And that's what I love about this is it gives us an opportunity as audience members to identify with every character and ask ourselves, would we do that? Would we be that way?
I absolutely agree 100%. You put yourself in a position. That's why I think Sang-woo's such a great character. Because when you put yourself into his position, I don't want to blow my load on this one, but I'll have to for the second. He does the things so other people don't have to. And for all his failings, he's actually protecting people as well at the same time. And it's not all altruism. It's some of it is selfish, but there is when you see his ultimate fate, that's not a selfish man,
right?
That is actually quite a morally good man put into a bad situation. So that's the beauty of it. We see morality in such shades of gray.
Yep.
And our horny sexy woman, she's got a great little character arc.
Yeah. Yep.
In as much as we, certain character traits, no, they're there. Certain character traits you can bend and try and break people, but they'll always remain. And that's one thing with her, and she has a great little story. And yeah, I mean, of course, this. Even the horrible things that Doc Sue does, and he's just like, but this is life and death,
right?
And I think Doc Sue's probably one of the first people to realize only one person's leaving with this.
Right.
I think it's the first person to work that out. Maybe Sang-woo as well, actually.
Yeah.
I think those two guys are the only two people in that room. Maybe 67. Maybe those three. I'm going to say those three. I think those three, not counting number one as a participant, are the only three that are like, no, one person's leaving. Only one person's leaving with this money. And everyone else has got this idealized idea of, no, all four of us are going to win. We'll win the final game. We'll split it 25%, and we'll all have happy lives.
And they do a good job of conveying that too. Like again,
very much so.
There's this if we just cooperate, we're gonna win the game.
but that's wonderful as well, because that's the trope,
right?
Yep. That's the trope. The trope is stick together and we'll win the day. And Squid Game's like, nah. It's not how we do things around these parts.
Nope.
No, sorry, Bob.
This is not battle royale.
No.
There's going to be no co-op in this one.
Yeah, this is bye.
Yeah, goodbye. You're burnt. You're out. You're out of the family.
But that's why I think this episode was so important, because this episode was very important to kind of open people up emotionally, to open people up from a morality level, and see exactly, who is capable of what. Because some people are capable of killing, absolutely. Some people in the audience who might not think so, when push comes to shove, could easily be like, no, well, actually, no, I could too. Other people can't, regardless of how far they push. They just won't be able to. And this is a game about pushing you to your extreme.
Yep.
Sickly enough for the entertainment of others.
Which has been going on since the dawn of time.
Amen.
Human beings love to watch other human beings fight to the death, or play these. I mean, it's a part of our existence. It's a part of any existence, really, I guess.
Maybe it's primal. It's a primal survival of the fittest, seeing the alpha male, the alpha of the pack. And it is the alpha male. Don't come at me on Twitter about sexism. That's how it operates in nature and in survival of the fittest. It's the strongest who leads the pack. And I think we all have this still. We have our carnal, and we have our aggressive primal desires still within. We just have a word which covers it up called civilized. But
well,
it's there.
I think what's really interesting too about all of, like, if you go back to all of the conversation, the virtue signaling that we're dealing with in our lives, one of the frustrating things that I've found is that is never taken into consideration. Human nature and where we're at. Like, you have all these young kids running around screaming Marxism and all that. I'm like, you don't know what that means. You don't understand that you cannot squelch the desire for human beings to want to have something of their own, to possess something that they've done, to have, if somebody has the artistic impulse and wants to create, or somebody, you can't take that away. And that's what collectivism ultimately will do to you. It forces you to conform where you don't get to express your individuality. And that's why those systems always end up in the murders of tens of thousands, if not millions of people. Because at the end of the day, the people that are in power, they're getting to express what they want. They wanted to be in power, and they'll keep it.
There's a wonderful channel on YouTube, and it runs a podcast called Civilizations Lost, and it goes through loads of different civilizations: the Roman civilization, Byzantium civilization, the Inca civilization, and the Aztecs, and it goes through like the lifespan of the civilization.
Yeah,
we're in a modern civilization. We're more widespread than they were, of course, but these were civilizations that had sophisticated levels of of how to trade, negotiate, develop, transport, build. We still marvel at how certain things got built even today. And the vast majority of the time, the reason why these civilizations all fall is because somebody wants more power. Somebody invades, somebody overstretches, a higher technology race comes through, and that's it. That's how civilizations fall and are conquered. And these contestants, you can see as many, they are a civilization unto themselves, and so they have to do what they must do.
This old story gets repeated again and again and again. I mean, and what's really interesting is working in the entertainment business, you see the same things, except it's not so much power is one thing, it's also ego. I guess that's what power is too. But it's like, hey, let's buckle down and make something. Let's all get together and make it. So often, I can't not tell you how many projects I've seen fall apart because somebody wants to exert their power over everything. And rather than realize, look, this is a collective effort and it's not collectivist. It's a collective effort where all these people from disparate talent pools come together to build something greater than the sum of their parts. And yet there's always somebody who steps in and has to open their mouths and wield some kind of whatever they think they're going to get out of it, and they end up scuttling the entire project. And that's the same is true of civilizations. There's somebody that wants how many, I don't know, more concubines or more land or more riches or whatever the hell they want, and they're willing to sacrifice. I mean, you still need. I think today what's really interesting about this show is it without addressing it directly, it talks about how people have fallen through the cracks, but it also addresses income inequality. I mean, the people behind the Squid Game, they're the 1%ers that have everything they want that everybody thinks they need, and they're bored to tears. They've been reduced to the fact they might be captains of industry and buy and sell countries, but they're still bored, and ultimately they're reduced to watching human blood sport. So
Because
how good is
every vice there is?
Yeah, they've gone through ultimately. You think you want these things, and ultimately you leave yourself. You're richer than God, and you're bored with your life, and you end up wanting to watch other human beings kill themselves for entertainment. Which to me is, you don't have to go to hell to lose your soul. You've lost your soul. You've lost your soul, and that's what I love about this game or this show is it addresses these issues without. I mean, people could say, "Oh, it's a little bit more heavy-handed," but it is Squid Game after all. You still have to make it fun and palatable. And yes, I think the one drawback of this show is when the characters behind the Squid Game are introduced. They're kind of caricatures, but they have to be because that's what it is. I mean, they're telling you.
I think that makes it more interesting, though.
Yeah, I mean, the actual portrayal of, like, I would have preferred, and maybe it's because. The one thing that I think was a drawback of the show is the English accents. It felt like you're listening to. I wish that it felt dubbed to me. The voices just were a little bit off, but maybe that was part of it. But it doesn't detract. But I would.
I kind of like it, you see, because we have these horrendous games and we have this horrendous. This emotion, this absolutely crazy wave of emotion that we have to go through with the characters, particularly when you look at episode 6. And we'll get to it. I won't say anything, but episode 6, I cried. First time I watched episode 6, I cried. It just broke me. Just absolutely broke me. It was such a well-written, well-thought-out episode. And then the next episode, you get the VIPs. And because the VIPs are so superficial and so cartoonish, and I just thought that's kind of perfect in a way. Because we sort of have this juxtaposition of hideous survival going on one side. And on the other side, it's, oh, darling. Oh, you found a little toy to play with, have you? I see.
Yeah,
but there's another whiskey.
See, to me, that was it was caricature, and the show it wasn't about that. I would have preferred, I would have preferred that they made these guys even likable. Like when they come in, you're like, wow, these debonair captains of industry, and I would have liked to have seen a couple of women amongst their number. And to be more like you really like these guys, and the fact that because it's like he said, oh, darling, and all that. I don't think that's the right. I mean, I don't think that's the right message. Well, but if you liked them and then how can you like them when they are so insidious? Well, the thing is, they're insidious because they finance and want to see the game. But if they as people. It was if they as people were like, if you liked them and you were like, why could you have everything you want. You seem like you're a normal person, but now you want to watch people kill each other. I mean, you hated those guys from the beginning. And I just think it might have been even playing more against type if you didn't like them. I mean, if you did like them.
I think the only one that I disliked was the obvious one, shall we just say.
Yes.
The obvious one was the only one that I per se disliked. The others I found quite neutral. Like, they were just having regular conversations, like, where have you placed your bet?
Yeah, but there's still, I mean, it's still there.
And then got corrected as to what the term actually meant. And then the other one kind of joked, "Oh, I preferred you when you were quiet."
I mean, I wonder, maybe because I'm thinking about Eli Roth's Hostel movies. He made Hostel.
That came to my mind when you were talking about that.
And I one of the things, like, I think I like Hostel too.
But look how they turned that guy in Hostel, though.
Yeah, I know. But I did.
You think he's a nice guy?
No, but that's the thing. Like, maybe what I wanted to see was more of, like, if I had made this, maybe I would have, and maybe they'll do this now that they're doing a second one. You'll get to see who these people are in their civilian lives. their fathers and upscale members.
Maybe Squid Game 2 is about 4, 5, 6 going around destroying their businesses.
Right. It could
be.
Now
that he's got the capital to do so. And it actually ends up turning into an executive Squid Game.
Or he ends up
where he puts the VIPs into a Squid Game,
Or he ends up the old man himself. He loses his soul.
Oh, quite easily. But he did say that it's about giving back. So we'll see. But a long time. I think there's a good 3 years probably until we see Squid Game season 2.
I know. But I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, it's just such a good show, man.
Well, listen, I mean, we said we were going to keep these to an hour. We haven't been able to do that yet.
We're not doing too bad. An hour and a half.
It's not bad. But I think episode 4, this is a great conversation, sir. I quite enjoy these.
Yeah, I very much enjoy these.
And we've got episode 5 on your channel next week.
Next week at the normal time of 8.
Yeah, the only reason it wasn't at 12 today is because I'm going on to the Drinkers channel and didn't at 1, so I didn't want. If we started at 12, I would have been late for his show.
Late.
But we'll be back at what is that, 12 Greenwich Mean Time? Isn't that what you're on?
8 Greenwich Mean Time.
I mean, pardon me, 8 Greenwich Mean Time. 12, yes. And, well, that was great. I want to thank the moderators for being here. Brian Hepburn, Jordy Lyons. Thank you guys for being here and moderating. I appreciate that. And I don't know who else is here. I think the 2 of you guys are here. Thank you very much for that. I want to thank everybody for generously supporting the channel via tips and super chats.
My rags arrived, by the way.
Oh, look at that.
My plushy rags.
I love it.
Well, you.
I really appreciate Ubi Roy. Thanks for supporting the channel, and great questions, by the way, for everybody, which you make the shows even better. Well, I think I will bring this stream to a close. Remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better day.